though Joel V in the comments is trying to blame me. But yes, normally Emily is my regular guest on Friday. Unfortunately, she, I believe, is selling two homes today, so she has some walkthroughs to get through. But she joined me on Wednesday. But today I have Justin Cambra, W2 to Freedom, and Brian Waters, Code 3 Invest. So thanks for filling in, guys.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Happy Friday, everyone.
So they actually have met each other also at Thatch Squin's event, right, in California?
Right. We didn't meet in person and talk, I don't think, but Brian literally saved the day. So like somebody had fainted in the crowd, I think, or passed out. And then Brian jumps to the rescue. The Thatch is like, hey, is anybody a medic? And then Brian jumps in and like takes care of it. And I was like, wow, who is this guy? Come to find out, you told me that Brian was at the event. And it wasn't until after the event that I connected. It was Brian. And then I actually saw Brian at Bigger Pockets, walking through the hall, but we hadn't connected.
That's right. Well, we're like two brothers from other mothers. I'm glad to be in the same room with you, man.
Well, Brian was trying to look for Justin, but I think he was surrounded by a lot of people at that event.
He had a bunch of deep pockets surrounding him, just trying to throw money at him. He's like,
I wish, man.
I'll get to that guy later. He's important.
But like I said, we're gonna dig into this video. Nothing is really truly passive. Maybe it's kind of a video Justin sent us to take a look at. Unfortunately, that video got pulled off of YouTube, so there must have been some controversial stuff on it, right? So Justin, maybe you can kind of tell us about that video a little bit and what it was about, and maybe why it got pulled off of YouTube.
So that video related to a lady I hadn't heard before. It's one that just popped up on my YouTube feed when I was on the treadmill, and it was a lady talking about California and the unintended consequences that rules that are put in place can cause, and it basically started this domino effect where the original goal was like, hey, let's increase the minimum wage for all our constituents in California from $22 to $25, right? So $3 an hour doesn't seem like much, potentially to some people, but when you multiply that by 40 hours a week, it ends up being a lot of money for the employers. So higher wages turns into lower profits for retailers. And this specific one is Walmart. So then Walmart's like, their number one expense in all retailers is labor. So you just took your largest expense and made it larger. So stores became either unprofitable or just below the profit line that they want. And for grocery, I used to work at Safeway, like 1% to 3% is like fantastic net profit, right? So, and Walmart's actually better than that. They're probably 3 to 5. So they ended up shutting down a chunk of stores, and then that was wave one. Then they did some other waves of closings. Turns out it was about 250 stores, and just think about 250 times however many people working at Walmart. I'm guessing maybe at least 100, right? And then they ended up not launching a distribution center, all because of this $22 to $25 an hour wage increase. And then later on in the YouTube, it starts talking about, I think it was Target is doing the same, and then other grocery store changes are kind of trying to consolidate to where let's just take our stores that are profitable, the ones that are around it that aren't profitable, let's just try to get more volume to the stores that are there. And then how does that relate to real estate investors, right? The last couple of years, I've heard triple net leases are the safest thing that's out there today. And I'm sure historically they are, but it just seems like in today's world, which is a little chaotic, if I'm a triple net lease landlord and Walmart's like an anchor tenant, that's going to be, not only do you lose the Walmart, but that's what pulls in everybody else around you, the hair salons, the teriyaki joints, the food restaurant, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we let Brian put his thoughts on the video, there is Brian's YouTube channel and Justin's YouTube channel. They should also be streaming live at the same time. So if you can jump over there, subscribe, hit the like, comment a little bit, but always come back here. But definitely go subscribe there. But Brian actually is in California. He's a fire captain out in California, LA. But would you say, did you get a chance to take a look at the video?
Yeah, I watched it. It was very interesting. Actually, at first I was kind of like, I was like, oh, this is not too into this. Like, it's just kind of clickbait. But the longer I listened to it, excuse me. Yeah, the more you realize that those little things affect everything. I didn't even think the fact that I was like, oh, boohoo, Walmart, they make so much money. And it turns out their margins are super thin. And the main effect is obviously the employees, which are going to be people who are trying to save, excuse me, for homes to buy, or potentially be renters of us for those that are in the real estate space, but also the retail stores that Justin talked about, that were, all near there. There's so many stores that are near there, right? So I have a Walmart, like a mile from here, and so yeah, it's, being from California, I've seen this happen firsthand. One of my buddies owns a Round Table Pizza, and it's been great for years. And right now he's struggling like big time. I talked to him the other day. I was like, "How's business?" And he might have to close down. That's his job. Like that's how he supports his family. And because they had to raise minimum wage, people aren't going to pay $40 for a pizza. They're just going to, you have to pass that cost on to the end consumer. And so that one decision affects everyone, including the ones who it's not supposed to affect. And so, yeah, it's California is going through some of that right now. This is why I invest out of state, my friends, just so we can get into that later. But
we can dig into that after too, because even so, Justin kind of started investing out of state initially, so he's kind of transitioning back closer to home. But we can also touch on that. But just want to that the YouTube channel is Megan Wright, so go check out that channel. Unfortunately, that video we are specifically talking about, it has been pulled from YouTube, but she does have other videos that are, I think, along the similar lines. I'm not sure if she changed some of the content, but a lot of it talks about, like I think Justin may have touched on in our kind of text message and whatnot, is maybe like domino effect, Pareto effect. So any of that you want to kind of bring up, or what your takeaways from that video was?
Yeah, I was a ag business major, but it's just agriculture and business combined, ag business. And any business major, any college is going to have economics as like the core chunk of your classes. And there's a Pareto efficiency is one of the rules that comes up. Effectively, it means no one person can be made better off without making somebody worse off, right? So they're trying to make the constituents better off, but then the businesses suffer. Well, then what happens? Well, now there's these stores that aren't selling, and then the sales tax goes down. The property taxes are going down if the landlords can't pay the property tax. Well, if it's triple net, then it would be the tenant, right? So, these things, when you're making changes, specifically when in the government, because it affects, millions of people at the same time, you have to think about not the very first person that you're trying to help. It needs to look at the macro scale and say, what's the unintended consequences this may have across the whole population? And really what's ended up happening, it comes full circle now. There's less sales tax coming in. There's potentially less property taxes being paid. There's less jobs, meaning, there's less money being flowing through the economy. And what happens, right? California, I think, was already at a deficit, meaning spending more than what's coming in. Now it just got worse. The deficit is growing even more. So it's like they've got to be thinking about what can we do to help stimulate the economy so that everybody can go. Because basically, if everybody's spending money, life is good, right? And what's happening now is because of these artificial adjustments, it ends up turning, some people start spending less. And so if the whole economy starts spending less, then that's when it starts contracting.
One thing to kind of piggyback on that, it kind of hit home when I watched that video, and I think Mark will appreciate this or not appreciate it, depending on how you look at it. But a lot of people don't know that your local fire service and your police departments were paid by property taxes, at least in California. So my salary and the equipment that we get, from engines to gear to medical equipment that's going to potentially save your life or your family's life, it's paid through property taxes. So taking these businesses out of California really affects not only me as a worker too, but it affects like the service that we could provide. I mean, it's, I love my department to death, but we're driving fire engines from 1998 that are literally hanging on by like zip ties and duct tape. And
Wow.
we make it work. But I think that, in lieu of all these major fires and stuff that we've had, a lot of that came back to some of the equipment that we have and the short staffing that we have. And so, I'm trying to think of it in the perspective of how it's affecting myself, but it's real. The reality is we go on emergency aids every day. And if we don't have the best gear, the best training, it really is affecting those people on the other end of that too, which is it was kind of this weird epiphany I had when I watched that video. I was like, this doesn't affect me. And I was like, yeah, actually, it really does.
Exactly. And then what usually happens, and I lived in California twice. And when I was there, I'd always see
Gave it a second opinion.
yeah, they would be, they would institute, well, let's do this levy, I think is what they call it. A levy for, usually it's schools or the fire department. So the tax revenue, they need more money because they're not spending it correctly, in my opinion. And then, so they're like, well, we need more money to keep these essentials, so for police and firemen and all that, they'll have a levy, which just means let's increase some sort of tax more, or the schools increase the tax more. So, it's one of those where they end up keep trying to get more and more out of it. And it's harder and harder, especially for, most of our tenants are blue collar people. And, if they're not getting that income coming in, then they're not able to pay the rent. So now it affects us as well.
So, as usual, Joe V is saying firemen sleep and eat all day. You don't work.
True.
We do have Steve tuning in from the Bronx. He's just retired from FDNY. So he is investing also in Pennsylvania and Scranton
Yes.
area.
Congrats on retirement.
Hyder does say police forces are private services. That's why they are listed on Dun and Bradstreet. Sheriff are the real law enforcement as they're elected, just FYI. But to that point, Brian, I think part of it too is I think people are fine paying taxes to some extent, right?
Mhm.
And I think maybe California is the example of, and obviously Minnesota too now and things like that. But people are just tired of paying taxes when they're seeing fraud or money being wasted. And I think I'm not sure if that video did, but I watched another video from that Megan Wright, but she was talking about also like the rail, I believe they were trying to build in California, right? And all this money that was spent. So is that part of it also too? Like you said, you're in California, right? So do you see this wasteful spending in a sense, or is it kind of like a media type of thing?
Yeah, to be honest, this might not be a popular opinion, but I think in my day-to-day job, and Mark, you go through this too, or any of the first responders that are on here, we see so much stuff every day. Like my job is to go out. People call us like in the craziest scenarios. Like, I mean, you can't even fathom. So like every call we go on is someone's worst problem. And so it starts to stack up for me, like mentally. And I know there's a lot of other first responders that have some troubles with that over 15 years of these traumatic events. So I got to a point in my life that I'm like, I deal with enough of this at work. I don't watch the news, I'll be honest. And so I know that's probably, I should be doing it more, but the guys will sit there and watch like Fox News, all this stuff, and they get in these heated arguments. I just go out and get in my little Zen area and just be like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Let the world keep turning. And I know these things affect me, but I don't pay attention enough to that stuff. It's I have enough in my brain to and I'm gonna keep plugging along. I'm gonna keep buying properties. I'm gonna keep despite all this crazy world that we're living in, keep trucking, keep moving forward. And that's what I suggest for everyone. So, I'm not educated in politics is I guess the point.
Well, not so much, but do you, like I said, since you're in the center of it, like, do you see rundown road? I mean, I know everywhere there's rundown road, but do you see like roads that are run down? Do you see homelessness everywhere? Like they're trying to put on the meat. So it's all this, like you're saying, all this taxes and funding is supposed to be used to address these things.
I don't know where it goes. Yeah, that's the point. So yeah, I mean, I'm in LA County, which there's really nice parts of LA County, and there's really, really, really ghettos. And so yes, I think there's mismanagement, not only in my department, but also like all over. It's pretty sad. But I don't think California is the only one that's immune to that. It's across the whole country, I'd imagine. So yeah, I do every now and then get in the whirlwind of Instagram, and you're like, these guys are going to these things. Hey, there's supposed to be a daycare here, and there's we haven't seen kids in 6 months. Like that part's very sad. It just I don't know what I can personally do about it other than just complain. And I'm not a complainer. I'm a doer. So
I think you hit on some great point for these people that are, whether they own 0 properties or a couple properties, are already, outside of the W-2 world. As you're building the portfolio, you need to start blocking out everything else. What can you control? I think Brian and I watched him on a podcast. He's like, buys 5 properties a year. If he just buys the 5 properties a year for 5 to 10 years, like he doesn't need to worry about any of all that noise. He's going to be all taken care of. Just stick to the plan, stay focused on your thing. A lot of this is just noise. So like when I was building my portfolio, I would try not to watch news at all, because then you're not doing anything. Like, is it entertaining and like what is that? Food, sugar for your brain, but it doesn't actually end up helping you at all to get to what your goal is. So I
Yeah, I think
appreciate Brian's point of view. Like,
yeah.
just block it out, hammer down, do whatever your objective for the year is. Focus on that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of my clients, and this is happens to a lot of new people, but I get a lot of new people that come into my program, and they want to, they already have all the excuses, and so I feel like almost I'm coaching them on. I treat my program like the fire service. I talk about the exits and the worst cases and work backwards, because in that first hour conversation that we want to hash out what are your biggest worries, because they're like, I heard this, I heard that, I heard, like, there's a lot of that that's going to stop people from doing things, but nothing will stop me because I have a goal in mind, right? And so I think people in general have two different personalities. They don't give a crap, and they're going to make it happen no matter what, or they're going to find every excuse because they're scared to do it, right? And so yeah, you just have to figure out which one of those you want to be. And it's okay to have fears, but I'm not going to let a Walmart closing not make me invest in another property. I guarantee that. So, but it's interesting to see the effects of all that happening, because on the back end of that is potential renters and potential the economy. Like, what is my house gonna be worth if there's no jobs there, right? So it does worry me, but not to the point where I'm gonna stop doing what I'm doing.
I mean, it's one of those where, as you're, say you're in Southern California in a small city. I don't even know, like Barstow, but let's just say Barstow's middle of nowhere and it's a smaller city, and you're like, hey, man, this looks like a great deal. Then you hear about the Walmart. I'm not saying it's closing there. If there was a Walmart and it did close there, okay, maybe that's not showing up in the financials, right? The financials are just going off historical. Well, then you need to okay, what's the current little microeconomy of where you're buying that rental? Okay, that's what would actually change my decision. Outside of that, I would just keep, banging away, trying to find good deals and executing on them. And then to touch on one point that Brian brought up, it was just, people get hung up on what they hear. The biggest thing that, I was building my portfolio, and maybe Brian can confirm this, is that as you're building the portfolio, you hear all that stuff, but the only way to know is to do. And so I would, it's dangerous to buy something off of Craigslist. I ended up buying like over 10 properties off Craigslist, right? And I've never even met the people in person, some of them, right? Is it possible to do it? Is it dangerous to do it? Yes. Did I make money? Yes. But I'm coming from a position of doing the action. Now I know. Now, could it gone bad? Yeah. Okay, then I just don't do that. The difference is like, by doing all these actions, it's helping me increase the speed at which I can exit. What's your thoughts on that, Brian?
Yeah, I think probably the most important part about it is you don't need to know everything. You just need to know the next step. But
Right.
Surround yourself with someone like Justin or Mark and join communities. And I'll tell you this every single time. I still am in communities because I don't know everything, but I have, like, it's almost like I'm paying to have connections to people that can help me answer stuff. Like, the weirdest thing will come up and I'll just throw it out to my network and boom, it's solved. So like, yeah. In the fire service, we live in a world of, we solve problems every day. Like, I don't care what it is, it's going to get solved. And so I still have that mindset, but yeah, I think you just got to do it. And like, I'm still making mistakes, and it's cool watching it's not cool watching this, but you'll see some of these like gurus out there talk about their mistakes. I'm like, whoa, they're multimillionaires and they're still making mistakes. Yeah, we're all human. And you have to change your expectation that real estate is not super easy. There's stuff that comes up, but you're one phone call away to me or Justin or Mark to be able to solve it. But you got to take it slow. You got to know how to underwrite. You got to, you got to think of the exits and stuff first before you jump in. That way you could sleep at night, and I think everyone listening to this probably knows, but the one thing I love about real estate is you can make money even without a tenant there. You could still make money. Like, you're going to be, it's appreciated on the back end. And so, I call it the 4 pillars, but the cash flow, the tax advantages, the principal pay down, and the appreciation. If you take one of those away, you're still doing fine. So like if the market's flat and you're not appreciating, guess what? The principal is getting paid down, you're getting cash, and you're getting taxes. That's
Right.
crazy. Like you're still winning. Now you take the renter away, that's the probably worst case scenario, but you're still appreciating and you still have tax benefits. So it's like, what world do you live in that has all the ways to win? And so that's why I love it so much. And sure, it's going to suck if your tenant moves out, but when you underwrite it, you put money away and you have reserves and that type of stuff. And so,
Yeah, it goes back to the time is the really, I would say action and time are the big two
yeah,
things. So if you keep doing action over time, buying the properties, investing in it, updating, rolling forward to bigger stuff, that's what's going to get you there. Because
yeah,
one of the pillars that you talk about is like one of mine that it doesn't get talked about enough is the debt pay down. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
that's like the stealth wealth, right? So like I'm almost
I
like
did.
close to 15,000 a month of debt pay down.
That's
Right.
incredible.
So what is that? It's almost 200,000 a year of net worth increase. Just if I do nothing at all, just the debt
Yeah.
pay down, right?
And
And then if you assume, with the inflation, right? Let's say it's up 3%. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars in appreciation. So like the last time I looked at it was almost like between appreciation and debt pay down, it's almost a half a million a year,
I
right?
know.
So like the longer you go, the more total combined assets you have. And so as you're paying it down in appreciation, it's just widening and widening. And so time is really the key thing. Action over time is, I guess, the key thing.
I love the principle that you call it stealth wealth, because regardless if you have a tenant and they're paying it, we have to pay it. So I
Mhm.
consider it like, even if I have to pay it, I know a portion of it's going, it's I call it my forced savings account. Like I
Yeah.
have to pay it, otherwise I'm going to get foreclosed on. And so it forces me. I'm nowhere near that number, but it's fun to watch. I'm getting closer to that number, and you're like, wow, like and it gets better and better as time goes on, like you said. So that's one of those pillars. I'm like, I tell people about, they're like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that. And so it's one of my favorites. And what I'm personally doing is buying properties that are 200 grand and less. And there's a reason, because we're talking about this domino effect. Like, what if my tenants are affected by a Walmart closing, right? Back to that original topic. Well, and they have to move out. Well, my mortgages on all my properties, as of now, are for a reason. The PITI on them are roughly about $800 to $1,000, and that's by design for me, because I have a house in California. If that tenant moves out, I'm on the hook for about $4,500. That's a lot. That's like, Brian is going to be, I'm going to have to go back to walking the streets and making money that way, right? And so, like, obviously joking, but a $800 to $1,000 mortgage, I could pull that from one of my other properties, or I could, you know, pick up an overtime at work, or I could sell some stuff on Craigslist. That's not going to be a game changer for me. So that's by design, and that's why I love those type of properties. So, doesn't mean that's the right way to do it, but it's what I do because it makes me sleep better knowing that and I keep reserves, which is also important.
Yeah, I bring this the stealth wealth up because there's on my agent business I have is people are like, let's just say in Seattle they're actually like paying $3,000 for rent right downtown, and so if we can get them into a house and pay 3,000, they're like, well, that's not really helping me. But I'm like, you are making the landlord rich by paying the rent versus when you're paying the 3,000, that's stealth wealth, the principal pay down.
Yeah.
That's how that's your very first step one. Whether you're buying a single family house just for yourself versus renting, that's one step. Or if you do the house hack, it's the easiest way to kind of get into this real estate game. So stealth wealth, don't sleep on that as you're looking at building out your portfolio.
Yeah. And go ahead, Mark.
No, I just wanted to touch on so Val Martin, he's a firefighter out on Maui. He's also a realtor, but he does say, I believe there's a place for unions. However, I believe unions drive the pork barrel projects like the rail in California and Hawaii. They donate to campaigns to get these projects passed. Hawaii and California are big union. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, could I say something about the union? It just this epiphany I had the other day. So we're probably about 3 to 4 years behind on our contract, and I'm not complaining. We get paid very well, and so I'm blessed that, I have a union that fights for us. I don't want to do that job. It's a thankless job. So thank you to my union brothers and sisters. But the point is, we've been waiting for a raise. We're way behind. We're not even caught up to like the cost of living, the COLA, right? And so this year with my 17 properties, you know what I did? I gave myself a raise. I raised the rent on 17 properties. I didn't ask anyone about it. I asked myself and I approved it. And I said, and they're small. I'm not gouging my tenants. I treat them very, very well. But I gave myself a raise. And then next year, I'm going to give myself another raise. And the following year, I'm going to give myself another raise. I only owe the same on my mortgages. So technically, everyone in my department, they're talking about the union and they're not fighting for us. I'm like, fight for yourself. Fight for yourself. Get out there and give yourself the raises. That is I call it the freedom fund. It's my second pension that I'm creating for myself. But it was a cool moment because I was like, well, the union didn't give me a raise, but I did. And so take control, go do it yourself. And that wasn't meant for the firefighter Maui to say anything bad about the unions. I'm just saying I'm a little bit more in control now to be able to do that. So, and again, I appreciate my union. They protect me and my salary, but 4 years, I haven't gotten $1 extra. So for what it's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. But it also, I mean, I agree to all of that, but I also feel it's the handcuff that traps a lot of the fire service, right? They rely on that pension, and that's what they're always looking for. And they spend so much time trying to calculate their high three and how much they're going to get. And it's like, just focus some effort somewhere else. And, like you're saying, you're creating a separate pension for yourself, right? Hey, Ollie's here. I haven't seen him in a while, but he's in frozen Detroit, he said. But he's investing in a market where Brian's also investing, right?
Ooh, let's connect.
Well, he's in school. Well, yeah, he should be still in school. I'm not sure if he's going to be in Vegas. I know Brian's going to be in Vegas. Justin's going to be in Vegas.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Harrison just let everyone know that he won't be able to attend this year. But Harrison Treybetter 99 says, what would you recommend for worker protection to prevent the return of the Gilded Age of the late 19th century?
And now I'm trying to think what the Gilded Age interpretation is. Maybe you guys know what Gilded.
I'm a dumb fireman. I don't know what that means.
I thought he was actually going to say the COVID until I read the whole thing, but that's what I thought what the direction of it was.
Gosh, I'm gonna have to Google Gilded Age real quick.
Well, what he's worker protection. Well, I mean, I know it's going to be somewhat that's the main purpose of the union, right? Is for the employees, and so like I said, there's importance for the union, right? I mean, there's a reason there's there, but at the same time, I can see how like Val was mentioning earlier, where it's gotten to a point where certain things have just been controlled by the union, right? So it's that kind of double-edged sword where it is a challenge to navigate. I guess.
I guess one thing to bring up, like my fiance, she has a pension, and in theory, we should have Social Security. I know the unions do very well at increasing income, but they do a great job at increasing the benefits, healthcare, and the pension.
Yes.
But what I would say, because we're in the same boat here, once we're married, then obviously we would share in the pension, she'd share in the real estate. But the thing that we're doing is we assume that those are zero. There's no guarantee that these pensions, these Social Securities are actually going to be there. They're hypothetical. On paper, you're supposed to get them. But what if there's no money when we get there? So to protect yourself is like, do your own due diligence, start getting in, for us, we love real estate, right? We're always going to tell you to do that. But whatever your niche is, your side hustle, I would be building that up, because even though this in theory is there on paper, if you don't build yourself up on these other income streams, you are 100% reliant upon them, right? And I think I was watching, I can't remember what podcast, but this guy was like, you basically want to become a sovereign nation, which means you don't need to rely on anybody else. You have your own your assets and resources to live and thrive on your own. That's what I would do, is like, even if you have Social Security and you have these pensions, still build up another cash flowing business or real estate or whatever that thing is, because that way you can help guarantee success when you exit the W-2 or when you get to the retirement age.
And it happens. I was a pilot for the airlines before I became a fireman, and all the old timers talked about in the '80s. They actually, all the pilots, they lost their pensions. Like the completely just got wiped out. Can you imagine that? Like working 25, 30 years as a first responder or whatever your fiance does, and all of a sudden they're like, nope, we don't have the money. Like that is a real fear. So I
Right.
couldn't agree more. And is it going to happen? Probably not. But I don't live in a probably not world. I live in a, it's guarantee this is going to work out for Brian. And so,
Well, to that point, I mean, that's also why, we're kind of talking about, California specifically and the domino effect and things like that. But it's taking, your finances or your, controlling what you can control, right? And I think a lot of the examples also in that video or that same channel was, for people that, because these jobs or companies are leaving, now one spouse might be losing their job. They're getting the opportunity to take a job wherever the company's moving, maybe let's say Texas, right? So now you have the husband has his job that he maybe can that maybe he's in the fire department, right? And he has his pension, and it's like he's in California. Now the wife's job is moving to someplace else. They have this home that their payment is whatever, 7 grand a month, because of high cost of living, and their child's in school. So it's like, what choice do they have now, right? Or is she going to quit her job? So, but that's also why I think it is going back to the whole, we have to control what we can control, and create our own pension in a sense, right?
yeah, we have a lot of guys and gals that actually commute because it's so expensive to live in California. They're living in Utah um, and even like Texas and Tennessee, and they're flying in. It's crazy. Like I commuted as a pilot, and I had free airfare, and it took years off my life. I would sit in the jump seat and get to work. It was probably the worst 5 years of my life. I commuted to Chicago just to start work. I had to get to Chicago, and these guys are paying for tickets and spending their day on and off, or the day off to get to and from work because they can't afford to live here, which is crazy. Like
Wow.
I couldn't imagine having to do that. And a lot of it's what Mark said. Their spouses got jobs outside, or their families moved out of the state because they couldn't afford it. So yeah, it's
Now, Justin, where you're at is probably the little brother or little sister of California, maybe policies and where it's headed direction wise, right? So is there anything in your head as far as, like I said, you were investing a lot out of state. You're trying to bring a lot of that back closer to you, but now with all these different policies, regulations, possibly, are you starting to reconsider your strategy?
I'm not reconsidering strategy. I mean, here, if you can cash flow, the appreciation is much higher, so you get the equity as well. But yeah, that's funny you say that, because like sometimes I think leadership in Washington aspires to be as corrupt as California. And now I'm getting very political here, but the last couple of years they did rent control, right? And then now they're talking about putting in a millionaire tax. So a lot of people like Washington and other states that have no state income tax, right? Well, what the proposal is that if you make more than $1 million a year, there would be a state income tax, which would actually be the highest in the nation. It's basically 15%. So higher than California, higher than New York City. So it's crazy what they're trying to implement here. So, which goes back to the original video. There's a lot of unintended consequences, right? So if you think about like these high-end tech employees here, a lot of these people make more than $1 million, right? So you're, director, probably higher than director, but director, VP, SVP, business owners. I mean, a lot of these small business owners might make over $1 million a year, right? And if that goes into place, now they're taking 15% out of that. Now that's gonna then start to push people out. Or I mean, in theory, like, you could start limiting what people would want to do. Instead of creating one giant company, you create two companies and have separate LLCs or something like that to try to spread out the income over different tax entities or something like that. But yeah, it's very, very interesting on what the rules that are coming into place that are changing the way that people operate. So I could see people moving out of Washington, just like how California has that billionaire tax where they lost some super high net worth people. It sounds like a lot of people are moving to Texas. I think Texas is another no state income tax place as well.
One thing I think it's important for all those that are in high income tax states like myself and Justin is there are tax laws and rules that allow us to save a lot on taxes. You just have to know how to implement them. They're not loopholes. They're actually strategies, and the governments want us to use them. And so, again, back to like not watching news and not complaining about your scenario. I personally am not going to be able to change the tax laws in California. I could sign petitions. I can go march on wherever the capital. I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going to do is the easier version of that, and I'm going to operate my portfolio like a business. And so, get with a very good tax person. Amanda Hahn has her books that are really, really good. I've talked to her in person. But the strategies that I personally use save me my W-2. Last year, I'm a very open and honest person. Last year, I paid about $60,000 in federal and state taxes in California on my salary, but I got half that back because the way I operate my real estate portfolio is an active business that I spend, like I'm going to Vegas with these two fine gentlemen. You better believe that's a tax deduction. I'm already going, but guess who else is going? My wife and my kids. Guess who's my business partner? My wife, my kids are my employees. So all that stuff that we're already doing. And before that, we're spending a week in Brian Head to go skiing. I can't run off the skiing, but I've already emailed real estate agents to look at Airbnbs because we are going to invest in an Airbnb. So that trip from the Airbnbs I'm staying in and the food and all that stuff, that's a trip I'm already taking, but I can deduct that against my W-2 income. So, please, you guys, if you get nothing else out of this video, is like find ways to get that back, because we're not going to change those laws. But I want to pay less in taxes. I want to pay my fair share, which we do, because 60 grand is a lot to pay in taxes. I just got my paycheck today and I almost cried because half of it's gone, right? So find ways to do it that are legal. It's not hard. It's really not hard. You just got to move the right pile to the right place and have the right CPA who is real estate friendly, if that's what you're doing, or small business friendly. And when I interviewed my CPA, the first question I asked is, how many properties do you own? And he said 30. I go, say no more, because he's going to teach you the strategies that you should be implementing.
All right, I know you have to roll, Justin, soon. So any final words from you real quick?
I would say, you were talking about how much you pay. I think you're saying that was personal taxes. But the one thing, sometimes landlords get a bad rap. I used to own in the Detroit area as well. I sold out last year. But, a lot of people when I was investing, they were calling you a slumlord and all that. But I was providing affordable housing. And what people don't realize is that, we're trying to help give these, affordable spots for people to live. The other side of that is that these all are paying property taxes. I just looked it up while we're sitting here. I pay about $120,000 a year in property taxes.
Whoa.
So it's like, when you guys think about how much money, sometimes landlords get this bad rap, but if there weren't people like Brian and Mark and myself, that's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to help support the local ecosystem. So it's key to keep people like us in business so that we can continue to help pay for these taxes. So with that, I'll leave you guys. You guys have a great day.
And I'll see you Sunday, Justin.
Yeah, I'll see you on Sunday.
See you Sunday, man.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, man.
Justin. Looking forward to seeing you in Vegas, man.
All right, see you in a couple weeks.
So Brian, I want you to maybe comment on this a little bit. Oh, shoot, hold on. Brian, I want you to maybe comment on this one from Coach Nick. He's in California. He might be moving to Charlotte at some point, but he says Texas sucks. Boring place to live, and property taxes equal bad income tax laws in California. So, I mean, to that point, is that why you think a lot of people put up with a lot of things in California to some extent? I mean, I've never been to Texas. I can't speak on it, but I hear people like it there. So I don't know.
You know what? I think everyone's got to live their life. Like I know you're out in Hawaii. My wife, when we were first dating, took her out there for her birthday, and I said, "I'm moving to Hawaii. Do you want to come with me?" And I love that state dearly, but um, the one thing that for me was missing was my family and friends. And so, like, if it really depends on where you grew up. Like I'm kind of like pigeonholed into Southern California because my life, I went to high school here, I work here, every friend and family. Like it was a lonely world in Hawaii because I didn't Mark wasn't my buddy yet. And so, you know, like what's living in paradise if you can't share that with the ones you love? And so for me, I think I'll probably end up staying in California. And the big reason is I'm sitting here in a t-shirt right now because it's 80 degrees outside and this is my world. I'm just making it work. I guarantee I could retire right now and move to Tennessee and have a great life, but it's probably going to be a little lonely. So it's not always about taxes and what you have. It's about the life you live with the people that you love. And so, everyone's got to make that decision, but I want my kids to grow up around their cousins and their grandparents and my friends' kids. And I'm willing to pay for that. And so that's my response. I've been to Texas too. It's just not for me, but people love it. So, and you kind of just like, you probably will never leave the islands because it's
No, I'm out. So
You're
I
out?
am completely different. I am over this place, but
Yeah.
I think it's just, it's a great place to visit, and that's what I'd rather do.
Yeah.
Is so I see a lot of my friends that have left, and it's, they enjoy it much more when you visit. Like
Yeah.
when you live here, you're just caught up in you're working 2, 3 jobs, you're sitting in traffic, and
Yep.
you don't really actually get to enjoy here, right? So I think
Yeah, I agree.
a lot of my friends that have moved away, financially, they're doing a lot better. Yeah, they miss their families, but when they do get a chance to come back, it's actually like they're actually taking in the beauty of
Yeah.
Hawaii, right? So they actually get to enjoy it and take in all the adventurous things you can do here. So so I think that's the way I would look at it. I do get people, it's family and support group, but to that point, Josh Burdick does say, we'll kind of maybe wrap it up with these type of things, but he says, Josh, money goes where it's treated best. And I always thought that. I always looked at it that way also. But I did see a recent video from Ramit Sethi, who I kind of feel he's a little bit of a grifter now. But he had an interesting take on, so a lot of people were getting in an uproar, when New York was going to vote in the new mayor, and he had a lot of socialist policies possibly. But Ramit's video was basically saying that is bullshit. Money doesn't leave. People want to live in New York. So you can make all these claims that billionaires are going to leave, the wealthy are going to leave. But he goes, wealthy people don't move to Tennessee. They don't like they want to be in New York for these type of activities or and just like California, right? People are living there for all of the beauty and what it offers, right? So
Right.
yes, there's these other things that are going on, but there's a lot of people that are just staying there and willing to pay maybe these higher prices and the other shenanigans and waste and all that, but because of what California offers, right? Is that, and like you said, that's kind of why you're staying there too, right?
Yeah, there's a quote that says like, the grass is greener on the other side. Well, there's a quote that says the grass is green where you water it. And so I like that quote because like you could make things work. But one thing I suggest people do, because I had a lot of friends in California during COVID, they're like, I'm moving to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And I'm like, have you ever been to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? And it's a beautiful place, but they had no idea. So there was these people that were fleeing because it was like the cool thing to do on social media. But I always encourage people, whatever you do. I love this Dion said this about his like retiring with the financial with fire. He said, give it a year period or two. Like if move out of state and rent for a year, and if you like it, cool, then stay. But we had friends that like close friends of ours that moved to Idaho, sold their house in California. They hated it, and now they're instead of living in a 3-bedroom 2-bath by the beach, they're living in a 2-bedroom condo because they completely sold their house. And so give things a test period, and that is going to give you a chance to see if you like things. And when you do that, I think you'll be better off. And it's okay if you like it, you stay. If not, you have a safety net to come back to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably the best way to do it, and really make sure you enjoy that place you're considering moving, and don't just do it to avoid taxes and things like that, right? Like they're saying, a lot of these businesses stay in those areas because that's where the money's being made, right? So, he said, Josh Burdick said the rich may live there, but structure their wealth to be protected. Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's also to Ramit's point, is that the wealthy just are going to navigate ways that other people can't, right? So, but their money a lot of times is going to stay in that area because that's where they're doing business, right? That's where the money's being made, right? So, but we'll see, right? Because it sounds like, and it could, like I said, it could be just the media, but it sounds like people are moving to Texas, Florida, Elon. Like, well, so that's another thing I saw too, is like everyone is trying to say Elon is moving all his stuff to Texas, but supposedly, and I never fact, but supposedly his AI is still in San Francisco, his tech, and that's like his newest facility, and that's like this his whatever billions of dollars, and he decided to still build it in San Francisco because that's where all the tech is. So
yeah, and when I said I don't watch the news, that's the portion of the news I do watch. I want to know where these companies are moving to, and like I invest in Tennessee, and the area that I'm investing in, that's where Blue Oval is being, which is the Ford battery factory, and so Ford decided to go into Tennessee because of the favorable tax laws there, and it's bringing 8,000 jobs. And the neighborhoods that I like are about 15 minutes from there. And so that's the type of news I want to watch, and not the doomer gloomer stuff that's on Fox News, because that's, to me, important to know as an investor. So
yeah, to that point, like Josh Burdick says, North Idaho is awesome, but it's a shock for someone from California. I'm in
yeah,
Spokane, just over the border. And to that point, so there was a Pittsburgh meetup back in September, and one of the investors who's in Hawaii, he's also investing in Pittsburgh. So they went there in September, and he like loved it. He's like, but I bet if he was there today in Pittsburgh, he would be reconsidering his thoughts of moving there, right? So
yeah, he's going to show up in his tank top and his flip flops from the ABC store, and he's going to be like, I don't even know it would get this cold in the planet.
yeah. So I think that's what happened to a lot of people also. They moved to Idaho from California, and then the winter came, and they're like, wait a minute, nobody told me the weather's like this, right? So
When I was living in Hawaii, flying out there, I got a job for the airlines in Chicago, and I didn't even realize that it got that cold. I showed up in a hoodie in Chicago in the middle of the winter, having lived in Hawaii for the past almost 3 years. I was like, I can't believe people. I had to put like 7 jackets on to get my wallet out of my car so I didn't die, right? So love that city, but I'm not meant for that type of weather, man, I'll tell you.
All right, well, let's see. It's about 2 weeks away, the Vegas event. You have said that you're going to be there, right? At Vegas event. All right. Justin is going to be there. I think everyone is looking forward to that. Go check out Brian on social media. He's doing, and you just want to confirm a lot of those things are not true events that are happening, right, with your tenants.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't tell that to my investors, and they were freaking out. Are the wheels falling off? No, I'm just having fun in social media. All the lady on the other end of all those skits, that's my wife, and so we record them just to throw some controversy and have a little fun, because investing's fun too. It's not all numbers and stress. So yeah.
All right. Well, quickly tell everyone, what is Code 3 Investing about? Where can they find you? I know I have your YouTube channel. You're streaming right now, but where else can they reach out to you at?
Yeah. So best place would be through my, just message me. But the inception of Code 3 Invest is all my fireman buddies were watching my my journey in real estate investing, and over the past three years, I've been able to scale my portfolio pretty well, and I've obviously fallen in love with real estate, and so I created. I now have a course, and I've actually changed the name to First Responder Real Estate Academy. And the school is almost ready to launch live. There's going to be over 80 videos, from how to analyze properties to where to get funding, how to do the BRRRR process. It's not strictly for first responders, but as a first responder, I know what other first responders do, so I'm pretty stoked on that. And yeah, there's about 40 of us in there right now. It's growing pretty rapidly. It's almost taking over. I got to be careful because I do have a full-time job, but I want to share my knowledge with other people interested in real estate, because I think I've fallen in love with it, and it's working well for me to create that second pension and protect my family so I don't have to leave California. So anyone interested in that, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. And
yeah, all right, very cool, man. Thanks for doing this. Like I said, everyone, go look for Brian at the Vegas event. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. And I'll see, you know what, actually, I'll just mention tomorrow I will be live streaming with Coach Nick. We got to figure out what's going on with Bitcoin, man. But
Yeah.
my weekly Bitcoin with Coach Nick will be tomorrow. And we're also going to have a special live stream. I'm going to be with Curtis, and I will be with Alex Dutter's teenage son. So his son is going to be taking advantage of one of the free tickets for the Vegas event that Zuber's offering for teenagers. And we're just going to see why he's going and what he hopes to get out of the event, and if his dad is pushing him to go. But we're going to just, yeah, I'll be live streaming twice tomorrow. So I'll see everyone tomorrow.